Hello, my name is Dat Pham, and today I'll be presenting a conceptual model based on the Wiley-Allen biocultural model. This model will explain how biology, culture, and the environment influences infant mortality rates in a population. And so to start off, we will first go to the environmental component of this model. The environment can be defined as the surrounding area where a population lives and obtains its resources from. The environment has several variables that ends up influencing the infant mortality rate in a population. The main independent variable for the component is climate. The climate of an area dictates the resulting biome in that area, and a biome can be defined as a biological community of microorganisms and organisms and plants that are adapted to survive in a certain climatic condition. With different biomes means that there are different organisms and different plants in that biome. In turn, different biomes end up affecting the dependent variables for this component, which are the resources and the amount of potential host organisms and microorganisms that carry diseases. To explain, let's say, for example, that the climate in an environment is very hot and dry, and so this results in a desert biome that exists. And so in a desert biome, there's very little water and vegetation and animals that can serve as nutritional resources. Also, there's not very many trees in a desert, and so there are limitations for shelter. And so the variables here end up influencing the variables for the biological component of this model. The abundancy of resources and the potential diseases in the environment influences the overall health of human population, which is our independent variable for the biological component. It's pretty easy to see how these variables can affect physiological conditions and characteristics of individuals in a population. For example, with an environment with little resources, the population has less nutritional sources, as well as less shelter and less medicines and treatments for those who get sick or hurt. With more potential diseases from the environment, there's a likelihood of many individuals contracting diseases and having health issues from them. Meanwhile, having a high amount of resources and a low potential disease has the opposite effect. Varying health conditions of a population results in varying health conditions of infants. Poor health conditions in the population can result in malnutrition for infants, or them being more likely to contract diseases, which both then decreases the survival rate for the infants, since infants have weaker bodies and weaker immune systems than adults. Over time, a population ridden with health issues will end up producing more frail and weaker-bodied infants. Also, if mothers are constantly plagued by poor health issues, there's less of a likelihood of them producing healthy babies. And in the case of mothers with viral diseases, she could end up passing it on to her child. And so these biological variables then end up influencing the variables of the cultural component. Culture is defined to be a belief system made up of norms and values that society implements into their daily lives and conducts their behavior. And again, here the biological variables affect the cultural independent variables, which are the population norms and values, for example, health standards. With poor health conditions, this results in many individuals and infants with deficient health. When this is abundant in a population, people will see it as it being normal. This causes everyone to see these problems as just being a part of life, and thus nothing is being done to prevent them. And so we can see the health standards of a population end up influencing this cultural dependent variable, tolerance of infant mortality. With poor health standards, there's a strong. And so these biological variables then end up influencing the variables of the cultural component. Culture is defined to be a belief system made up of norms and values that society implements into their daily lives and conducts their behavior. And again, here the biological variables affect the cultural independent variables, which are the population norms and values, for example, health standards. With poor health conditions, this results in many individuals and infants with deficient health. When this is abundant in a population, people will see it as it being normal. This causes everyone to see these problems as just being a part of life, and thus nothing is being done to prevent them. And so we can see the health standards of a population end up influencing this cultural dependent variable, tolerance of infant mortality. With poor health standards, there's a strong likelihood that the population has a high infant mortality rate.